The man is considered to be armed and dangerous.
When I'm given the chance to freely write about history, I usually like to talk about real obscure things that most history classes won't teach you. One of my absolute favorites has to be Nazi archaeology, though. That just goes so deep for no reason at all. But while Himmler was genuinely out here looking for the Tesseract to try to prove racial superiority, there were others out there trying to do equally dumb things to win the war. And that's what I want to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you. So, it's 1942, and the Battle of Stalingrad has just begun. It was the largest and deadliest urban battle in human history. And while the Germans gave it their all, the Soviets were successfully able to defend the city of Stalingrad, and Germany surrendered to Russia in February 1943. It was Germany's first ever major defeat, and marked the downfall of the Nazi ideology as we know it. And while that was happening, Britain was playing with ice. So there's this guy, Geoffrey Pike, and he just invented a new material called pykrete. Pykrete is made up about 14% wood and 86% ice. Basically, the fibers of the wood reinforce the ice, making it extremely durable. So durable that it can defend itself against bullets. I think you know where this is going. So how does Geoffrey go about pitching this new substance? Well, during the Quebec Conference in 1943, he entered the project meeting with 2 blocks and placed them on the ground. One was normal ice, and the other was pykrete. He then, with Churchill and Roosevelt in attendance by the way, drew his service pistol and shot the block of ice. It shattered, naturally, so he fired again at the pykrete block, where the bullet ricocheted off the block, grazing the pant leg of Admiral Ernest King. Despite what literally just happened, everyone was immediately on board and asked for a full-size ship to be made immediately. And while pre-production made it pretty far, by the time they were actually about to make the ship, they realized that there just wasn't really that high of a need for it anymore, plus it being stupid as shit. The Mythbusters actually were able to make their own pykrete ship. However, theirs was more the size of your average speedboat than an actual naval ship like it was originally planned, and it lacked any of the cooling systems that would keep the ice from melting. Despite that though, their ship actually sailed for quite a while and reached decent speeds at that. And while the Mythbusters agreed that a pykrete ship is indeed possible, it's still really stupid, and you would probably have a better chance having a long-term career at Ubisoft before making this even remotely effective. Now, we all know the story. Hey, should we do something? Nah, just keep supplying them, they'll be fine. Son of a... America being just a little bit upset, decided to retaliate by, However, before the invention of the atomic bomb, the military had another plan. It was to strap bombs to bats. Yep. The logic was that the bats would naturally fly into attics and rooftops before the timers went off, causing hundreds of small fires all at once. Which honestly sounds less like a military strategy and more like what Christian Bale did to those police officers in Batman Begins. The funniest part is, it was proven to be pretty damn effective during the test runs, during one of which, a bunch of bats escaped early and accidentally burned down part of the airfield and one of the general's cars. The project ended up going pretty far, with millions of dollars spent before eventually canceling it because the atomic bomb was invented, and everyone just kind of agreed that that was just a little bit more practical than, suicide bats. So during the German invasion, the Soviets were desperately short on anti-tank weaponry, which kind of sucks for them since the Germans' whole thing were their tanks. So someone came up with what I'm sure they thought was an absolute banger idea. Their idea was to strap explosives onto the backs of dogs, train them to run underneath German tanks, and then when the bombs hit the underside of the tanks, they would detonate. Despite the obvious moral issues with just the whole thing, there was one issue in particular that kind of put a wrench in the whole plan. You see, the dogs were trained using Soviet diesel tanks, but German tanks used different engines and sounded completely different, meaning in actual combat, the dogs would often panic and run back towards their own trenches, which you could imagine was, a bit of a oopsie daisy. And despite all the moral issues, the inefficiency, and the friendly fire, the Soviets still kept on using them. They were using these guys from 1941 to 1943. 2 years. 2 years! Are you still surprised that the Soviet Union lost the most amount of people in World War II? No? I never was. So those were some of the worst inventions World War II had to offer. Did you enjoy it? I bet you didn't, but I do hope that you learned something from this. I guess the moral of this story is don't strap explosives onto the backs of small animals.